Hi, my name is Jabin, and you are watching rptv. Toronto Community Housing Corporation, TCHC, staff submitted a report regarding updates on the ongoing Regent Park Revitalization at the July 18, 2025 Board of Directors meeting. The report, covering all 5 phases of the multi-decade redevelopment, outlines current progress, delays, future construction, and an ongoing community vote on $26.8 million in community benefits.
Since 2006, the Regent Park Revitalization has aimed to transform the neighborhood into a mixed-use, mixed-income community. Phases 1 through 3 have already delivered over 1,400 rent-geared-to-income RGI units and 427 affordable rentals, along with new community facilities, retail, and green spaces. The Daniels Corporation was the development partner for the first 3 phases, and Tridel Inc. is the selected partner for the final 2. Now, in phases 4 and 5, new construction is ramping up, and the latest report presented to the TCHC board gives us a closer look.
Highlights from the report are: Building 4A will be the first new TCHC rental building in Phase 4, located at Gerrard Street and Dreamers Way. It includes 271 units and is expected to start construction in September 2025.
Buildings 4B and 4C will add 731 units of market housing and contribute to a new linear park. A site plan application was submitted in July 2025 and design is currently underway. Buildings 5C and 5D will follow as the next TCHC rental buildings. These buildings will anchor a new civic square and include a future Toronto Public Library branch. The design procurement process is expected to begin in fall 2025, with construction projected to start in 2027.
175 Oak Street, the final rental building from Phase 3, officially opened in April 2025. It marks TCHC's first smoke-free building. The report also highlighted a major milestone in community engagement, the $26.8 million community benefits vote. In 2020, Toronto Community Housing Corporation selected Tridel as its developer partner for phases 4 and 5 following a public procurement process. One of the key features of Tridel's proposal was its commitment to a $26.8 million community benefits package intended to support TCHC tenants and Regent Park residents. In early 2022, TCHC and Tridel began engaging the community to determine how this funding should be invested. In May 2022, TCHC established the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group, CBOG, through a community recruitment process. Now, Regent Park residents are voting on how to allocate the $26.8 million in community benefits. The vote, which began on June 15, 2025, was co-designed by TCHC, Tridel, and the CBOG, and is based on community input gathered in 2023. Residents are choosing between 3 investment packages. Package 1 focuses on community spaces. Package 2 focuses on educational scholarships. Package 3 focuses on job training and support for small businesses. During the meeting, Regent Park resident Waleed Kagali Ali, co-chair of the Regent Park Neighbourhood Association and the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group, addressed the board about the vote and the importance of meaningful community engagement. Now let's hear what Waleed has to say.
Appreciate it. We're going to move on to item 9C, and we have a deputation. Waleed, I see you online.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Waleed Kogali Ali, and I'm a longtime resident of Regent Park. And I'm the co-chair of the Regent Park Neighbourhood Association and the co-chair of the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group. I'm here today to raise deep concerns about item 9C, Regent Park Phases 1 to 5 Revitalization Update, specifically page 4 of 6. And I want to encourage the board to take corrective action to uphold your commitments to Regent Park residents regarding the community benefits process. In March 2020, Toronto Community Housing and RPNA jointly endorsed the Regent Park Phases 4 and 5 Community Benefits Framework. Under the leadership of then interim Vice President Vincent Tong, that framework outlines a bold vision that $26.8 million in community benefits will be governed by a community-led transparent process directly tied to the Regent Park Social Development Plan. Today, that commitment is being broken, in my opinion. The proposal before you outlines in item 9C makes no mention that community benefit dollars are meant to resource and support the Regent Park Social Development Plan, despite that being the very purpose of the framework. Instead, the report describes all packages include a tenant hiring target of $13.4 million in wages, the responsibility of Tridel. Additionally, $3.5 million is dedicated to community grants. Every 3 to 5 years, the community will be consulted to determine social development priority areas. This language misrepresents the governance model and reframes residents as advisory, not as decision makers. Furthermore, CBOG, which is the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group, a body created under the framework to co-develop and oversee these allocations, has been entirely bypassed. Its sense-making report, developed with over 1,000 residents who provided input through a survey, and was formally adopted by CBOG, outlined a thoughtful distribution across employment and skills training, capital investment in community spaces, micro-enterprises and youth programming, community safety and communication. Yet today, CBOG approved allocations have been ignored. $13.4 million in employment funds are being managed exclusively. I want to repeat this, managed exclusively by the developer with no access for community-led employment initiatives. Meeting minutes were shared, honorariums for grassroots participation have been quietly removed. This is not participatory budgeting. This is not what the community agreed to, and this is not the Regent Park model that has guided over a decade of revitalization. We're asking the board to intervene to restore integrity and alignment. The community benefits framework promised that all funds, not just the $13.4 million non-employment portion, would be directed by Regent Park residents. That is the commitment we expect TCHC to honor. We also propose a clear, constructive path forward, that the Employment and Economic Development Working Group of the SDP be empowered to steward some of the employment-related allocation in collaboration with CBOG, reinforcing transparency, accountability, and community participation. To that end, we respectfully ask the board to, 1, affirm the authority of CBOG to co-develop all community benefit allocations. 2, ensure that the full $26.8 million is governed by the community as per the framework. 3, incorporate the SDP branding and alignment in all public materials as the city has also done when it comes to the social development plan, and restore equitable participation, including honorariums and shared documentation. In 2023, Regent Park achieved a milestone, my friends. 0 gun-related deaths, a result made possible by strategic investments in community-led social development. This is proof of what's possible when residents are trusted to lead. We're not here asking for charity. We're asking you to honor a signed agreement and to work with us to ensure that the promise of revitalization is fulfilled, not only in concrete, but in community, in concrete, but in community. And I want to thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions. And before I end my deputation, I just want to share, if it's possible, the community benefits framework on the screen, just as a reminder. Share content. This is the framework that I'm referenced to. It's on the Community Benefits Coalition website, and it is clear and transparent. And my hope is that we abide by agreements that have been endorsed by TCHC and the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I think Sean would like to make a few comments.
I'm comment quickly, and I'm going to actually ask one of our staff members to comment as well. Just so board member to remind everyone, This is a very significant community benefits package. I think I understand that it's the largest cash contribution community benefits package in Canadian history. So it's a significant issue and really important for us to do properly. There's been tremendous work with Regent Park to ensure that there is significant community involvement in all levels of the work that we do, community benefits distribution as well. To be clear, the entirety of will be distributed in the form of community benefits. So I know that there was some discussion that that be parsed and different, but all of it will flow towards community benefits. I'd like to ask Will Mendez, our Director of Community Engagement on our development team, to talk a little bit more about the approach that we've had in terms of ensuring that there is community involvement in how these decisions get made, that there's a variety of different voices brought to the table in how we provide that assurance, and then how these funds will flow going forward and the process that we're following. Could you comment, Will?
Yes, and through the chair, and I would just like to thank the deputants that have brought this to the attention of the board. We are very confident that the collaboration between the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group, Toronto Community Housing, and Tridel as our developer partner has been very strong and has facilitated very robust conversations over the last 3 years. We've been working with the Oversight Working Group to design and implement a community engagement plan that has seen over 1,000 residents living in Regent Park, primarily TCHC tenants, provide input and feedback into prioritizing investment areas. And in the board report, those investment areas are summarized in the attachment number 4, where there's money allocated to employment, scholarships, training opportunities, community spaces, as well as funding for ongoing local granting. Okay, the context of this of the investments is we've kept the employment target that Tridel is accountable to achieve at $13 million, which is a target that enables employment for TCHC tenants to be employed on site and through Tridel's network through the duration of the revitalization period. And if Tridel does not achieve that target, they have to provide us cash in lieu. So that's why it's a $13 million target. And that is what Tridel is accountable to delivering as part of this project. In addition to that, the remaining $13.4 million, call it, of the overall $26 million package is in the form of cash investments. And what we're doing right at this point in time is for the community to vote on how that money should be allocated. And that is in the form of 3 packages that Regent Park residents have the opportunity to vote on, and they prioritize those packages, and we'll use a ranked ballot approach to determine the winning package, which will then form our community benefits agreement. And we've started this process of community voting approximately 3 weeks ago, and I'm happy to report back that so far we have about 627 residents of Regent Park that have participated in the voting process, with our overall goal of having a minimum of 1,000 people participate. So community has been involved in informing what the investment should look like, not only through our engagement, but also through community reports that have come prior to the inception of our Community Benefits Working Group. So we've used a lot of community data to inform the actual packages. Now we're going to community to figure out which package community would like. So there's, and with the goal of 1,000 people participating. So that's a community engagement. And I just want to draw some attention to a little bit of context. The deputant brought up a very important point of the connection with the social development plan. So Regent Park in recent years has received a lot of City of Toronto investments for social development plans, particularly in Regent Park. That money is coming to an end, and there is a need for investments in the social development plan. Everything that's included in the community benefits agreement speaks to social development in general. So there's money, there's employment, which is a social development priority for Regent Park. There's training, there's money for ongoing local granting, which will then help with grassroots organizations and TCHC tenants and community members to put on different initiatives that speak to the immediate priorities of the community. So we're doing our part in terms of TCHC's contribution to advancing social development in Regent Park as part of the original commitment when this revitalization started. But there is a concern from people that are heavily involved in the social development plan tables, including the RPNA, to get additional resources from the city. And so I just want to bring that to the attention of the board as a contextual component, because we cannot fund everything. Like there's various players and funding bodies that have contributed to the social transformation of Regent Park.
Thank you. There's a few questions. So Debbie and then Brian. Oh, and then Ziva.
Thank you for that context setting. And so I'm trying to understand where the concern is then from Wally, given what we've just heard in terms of how that, well, putting aside the 13 million for employment, and we trust that it will be sustainable employment and meaningful employment for the most part. And so Wally, what's the disconnect given that the balance of the 13.6 million will be going towards social development goals, although they may not be specific as to what the community benefits oversight body has put on the table?
That's an excellent question, Debbie. The concern is primarily focused on those funds, half the bucket basically, being spent exclusively on project costs that relate to the hire of full-time staff, and we welcome that it will be Regent Park residents. But what we've championed is that the funds will, one, be determined by the community through a vote. And we went through a sense-making report that was endorsed by the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group that actually recommended different allocations, 33% for employment, and another allocation that came out from the sense-making report was 39%. TCHC is put forward the 50% allocation. It was not the residents. It was TCHC, and the argument was that we think this is the best allocation, ignoring the residents that participated in the survey, where we had over 1,000 participants. That's the concern. The other concern, and I've been talking to your CEO, Sean Beard, about this informally, and have requested a meeting on behalf of RPNA, is we are invested in a solution for it. We don't want this. We want this vote to be completed. We want community voices to be heard. But as a compromise, what we're pushing for is the employment and economic development working group of the social development plan have access to that $13 million, not just Tridel exclusively. And any rational person will, come to the conclusion that it's basically a $13 million cash contribution to the community, not $26.8 million. Because if you're allocating $13 million to project-related costs for Tridel and not allowing the employment and economic working group of the social development plan that has helped Regent Park residents gain employment, gain good jobs in our community, then you are doing this whole process a disservice. And I argue that it's against the framework that was endorsed by RPNA and TCHC.
Thank you, Waleed. My TCHC colleagues, how did we arrive at 50%?
Yes, so the allocation of 50% of the overall investment, the original proposal from Tridel was $17 million. We looked at several factors went into that decision, one being the intense advocacy from the community for the developer to provide meaningful jobs for people living in Regent Park. Okay, and we heard a lot of criticism in terms of perceptions from previous phases. And we also received reports from the community stating that employment leveraged through the developer and its network is very important. So we took that into consideration. We also took into consideration what the community said through the 1,000 responses and also their recommended averaged allocation, which is less than 50%, and took a look at the feasibility and the employment projections based on historical data in other revitalization sites, the duration of Regent Park's revitalization, and took into consideration how long would $10 million last as an employment target, okay? How long will $17 million last, and how long will $13 million last? So $13 million enables enough runway, or as a high enough target for Tridel to sustain employment throughout the revitalization period. Anything less would create a situation where Tridel will hit that target before construction is concluded within the revitalization. So this is our only accountability measure to ensure that there's construction employment facilitated throughout the duration of revitalization. And that's the main driving factor as to why it's set at 13.4 million. And the reason why we did not want variations of that is because we didn't also want to create the dynamic that community is fighting employment, which they've advocated for, in different levels of targets. So we kept it consistent across all three options that community gets to vote on. We also kept consistent $3.5 million in local granting consistent across all three packages, because we didn't want the dynamic emerging within community that they have to, now fight for different types of investments in local granting. I hope that responds to the question adequately, but that is the rationale behind the decision.
Thank you. So good. I understand now where the concern is. Thank you.
Brian? You're
Sorry.
On
I wanted to know what changes in engagement, because it seems community engagement, community development is such an important part of all our developments and engaging. And so I'd like to hear back how we could better engage that community to be part of the decision-making process as opposed to being just recommendations into the process. So that's one part of my question. And my second part of my question relates to the reduction in gun violence and any other, because I'd like to understand what impact in financial impacts, maybe less CSU involvement in that community. Therefore, this is a very important aspect of how to deal with these types of violence that we definitely want to deal with in our communities and reduce it. So, what can we learn, and what have we been able to, in fact, save financially by investing in community development, rather than trying to increase the number of CSU in the community. So I'd like to understand a little more the impact of how this whole process has improved the I guess quality of community for the tenants and the people who live there.
It's an excellent question, Brian. I just want to say that for community engagement, we've been sitting at the table as volunteers, helping co-develop this process for years.
Mr. Kigali, I believe that question was addressed to staff.
Yeah. So could,
Well,
Brian, was it for management? Sean would like to comment.
yeah, I would certainly both, actually.
Okay.
How we can improve the interrelationships and make decision-making more participatory and
Okay, so Wally, you go first, and then Sean will speak to it.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so Brian, that's an excellent question when it comes to engagement. Like I said, residents have been volunteering years of their time to ensure that this process is done well. and there were commitments made to the community, and that is residents will decide how that $26.8 million is allocated, not $13.4 million. Point one. Point two, residents were actively involved in the selection of the new developer partner, which was Tridel at the end of the day, and it was informed by our community priorities, specifically outlined in the community priorities report. What I think is critically important is we want to make sure those investments are community-led, not Tridel exclusively led. That's the challenge that we're dealing with right now. If the developer gets to pick and choose where the $13 million is spent, instead of working with the residents, working with the community, working with the Employment and Economic Development Working Group, for example, then the outcomes will be less meaningful and impactful. You asked the important question about community safety. Well, the reason why I believe we had zero gun-related deaths in the communities because many grassroots organizations, resident-led groups, and initiatives had an impact in supporting at-risk youth, at-risk members of our community in finding jobs, in finding employment. We say the root causes of poverty and crime is the root causes of crime is poverty. The root causes of the challenges we have as a community is poverty. So the employment bucket is very important to us. And that's why we don't want it to be exclusively a Tridel allocated priority. It should be community co-led process. And that's why I'm deputing today. I really care. I love my community. I want the best for my community. I want to make sure we have zero gun-related deaths for decades to come. I want to make sure that Regent Park is a place where investments come. And we have an amazing story to tell, not just to the rest of the city and province and country, but to the world, my friends. And it can be done through your leadership. We've signed a framework. All I'm asking for is for the implementation of the framework and not for TCHC to allow Tridel to exclusively allocate those funds. Lastly, we're proposing a compromise. We know there's a vote that's going on, and all we're asking for is for that bucket to be accessed by the community through the Employment and Economic Development Working Group of the Regent Park Social Development Plan. That's our compromise, right? We know that TCHC has already invested resources in the vote. And if that happens, we'll be going out there championing those packages and allocations, and we can collectively increase the turnout from the 600 number that Will Mendez mentioned earlier. And that's why I'm coming here, is to ask for your support and your help in course correcting this process, so that we are all working collectively to ensure that we have the results that we want, which is community safety and a social development plan that is fully resourced as we intended back in 2020 when Vincent Tong signed this framework on behalf of TCHC.
Thank you. Sean?
Yeah, so through the chair, I strongly agree with lots of the points. I mean, there's been tremendous improvements that have been made within Regent Park, and absolutely that's with the support of and through the hard work of so many different community organizations and agencies that have come together to make change happen there, and it's tremendous. I agree too that it's been shared with many organizations around the world that have come to tour and learn, not just from TCHC or the City of Toronto, but from community organizations that are doing active work on the ground there. So I strongly agree that there's lots of incredible work that's been done there. Having said that, there's also learnings from the first phase of the work as we've gotten into the fourth and fifth phase of the Regent Park revitalization. And so a big part of that learning is a substantive increase in the amount of community economic development investment that is being made on behalf of the developer here. And that was part of the process that went through to select Tridel as the developer partner here. And it is the most significant increase that we've seen across all of our different revitalization projects, and as I said, sort of across Canada earlier. So yes, agree that there's been lots of work done and lots of improvement made on the experiences of the community. To your point, Director Smith, we'd be happy to do a more fulsome look at what the community safety and economic implications are of that transformation over time. I think that would be a fascinating study to do. So we'd be happy to dig into that a little bit more. To the first part of your question, though, which was around how do we ensure that community is properly engaged in how we govern and distribute the funds, I think that really is the nub of the question that's in front of us. So I'll make one quick point, is that there are a variety of organizations and individuals that would like to be involved in that process going forward, and we're trying to be respectful of a variety of voices and inputs into that. But then I'll pass it to Will to give further comment on specifically how we can do that better.
Okay, so just want to reaffirm to the board that even from the beginning stages of phases 4 and 5, community has been involved, as they were involved in developer presentations and helped rate the CED proposals from developers. So it's been an ongoing theme as part of the revitalization to keep community informed and participating throughout the process. Just also want to confirm that TCHC and Tridel is working with the Economic and Employment Working Group of Regent Park Social Development Stakeholders Table. It's a working group that Waleed had referred to. We are active partners on that working group. We've even developed and secured funding, external funding to create some really innovative community engagement and training programs for Regent Park tenants. Okay, so we're actively working with community groups and working groups with residents to design and innovate new programs that come into Regent Park that are aligned with everyone's interests at the table. So we are currently working on that, and in the future state, we are going to be going to community on a regular basis to do priority setting, to understand the evolving needs of Regent Park residents. So every 3 to 5 years, we will go back to community in the form of surveys, focus groups, to understand, hey, how are things to do a couple of things, to set refresh priorities, get a pulse as to how things have worked or have not worked, and then pivot and evolve our approach in terms of implementation according to that feedback. And that information will be shared with the community, because we're hoping to leverage our engagement processes to enable organizations, grassroots groups, and tenants understand what the voices of community in community, so that way we're moving forward together. It's not an isolated engagement process. We will share that information out so that way the City of Toronto, community agencies, and tenants understand where we're planning on going and what people are saying as future investments in social and economic transformation take place. And that's an ongoing process from now until the end of the revitalization.
Okay, I'm going to turn this
I just sorry, have a addition. I guess one suggestion would be to look at ways that people, as this group, could participate more specifically in decision making as opposed to just recommendations and that. So to engage them more fully. So that would be a suggestion I would make.
Okay, thank you, Ziva, and then Debbie.
All right, so I just have 2 questions. The first question is, I'm a bit unclear of what was the original agreement? Like what was the original agreement in Regent Park? So there's mention of 2020, there was mention of SDP, there was mention of many things, but I'm just unclear what exactly was the original agreement. So if someone could clarify that with me, that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I can start off by saying that.
Is that?
I'm just conscious of the time.
We need to step.
Yeah.
So the original agreement was secured at a $26.8 million community benefit investment. The agreement was that TCHC and the developer would engage in a 1-year community process to determine the allocation of cash of investments, okay. And we are delivering that. Everything else in relation to the social development plan and funding towards it, these are all things that are informing the investments, and the investments, as you can see, are driving forward social development plan goals. Okay, we are all on the same page. What is at stake here is an issue of funding specific initiatives, and the overall context is that investments from other stakeholders like the city is looking different in upcoming years. Okay, so we don't have all the money to fund everything, and we need to work together to secure funding for specific initiatives that might fall outside of the CBA, the Community Benefits Agreement.
Okay. Can I just ask a question, a simple question? Are you following the framework that was signed?
Absolutely. And the level of engagement that TCHC is providing, you will not see that anywhere else in
just
Ontario,
asking if you,
at least. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Just want to make sure that, because there's...
But my sense is, Adele, that the committee disagrees, given that TCHC made a unilateral decision about 50% of the money going into employment, as opposed to what was suggested at 33 or 39% based on tenants' input, from what I've heard for Waleed. I had one really quick question. Is part of the reason why we're using 50% because it's easier to have in kind in terms of employment from Tridel than cash?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Debbie. I just want to correct one thing.
Sorry, Waleed.
I don't.
Sorry, Waleed. The question was for staff.
I'm going to hand over to Peter Zimmerman to respond to that.
Yeah, through the chair, the allocation of funds in the different buckets. Part of it is about the community priorities. Part of it was about what Tridel had proposed as part of the original community-informed RFP process. And part of it relates to, there's an overarching requirement that the allocation of those funds remain within a context of financial feasibility. So there is an aspect of all of the decision-making related to the delivery of community benefits, whether they're jobs and training or community facilities, that has to relate to the financial viability of the project, and when funds will be available over the course of the development, because the developer funds the investments through the projects that are being delivered along the course of the project. So there is this aspect of it that does relate to economics, for sure.
So I'll take that as a yes, that Tridel, it's easier to get Tridel to say yes to 13 million in some sort of jobs and training than it is to get cash that can then be reallocated differently between employment and the social development initiatives as suggested by the committee. Thank you.
I'm just going to ask that you work closely with the groups, that you continue that. And I will just, I think that's the end of the discussion. And so I will just ask for a motion to receive this report at this point. And I would think that as we go through this process, that the board should be updated on how this is going. That's what I would ask. Okay, so can I have a motion to receive? Vanita, John, all in favor? And I thank the deputants very much for their time and bringing this to our attention, and we'll continue to work on it.
Following the discussion, the board voted to receive the report and requested continued updates on the community engagement process.
As Regent Park residents await the outcome of community benefits vote and the approval of new buildings and civic spaces, the revitalization enters a critical phase. Community voices remain central as decisions made in the coming months will shape the future of Regent Park for years to come.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please follow us on all our social medias, and for more information, please visit our website.